We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council legislative work session for tonight, which is November the 10th. Our invocation will be done by the pastor Alicia Horton of the Daystar Tabernacle International, and then the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller. Please stand for the invocation.
Father, we just give you thanks and we give you praise today. We thank you, Father, for waking us up this morning, starting us on your way. Father, we bless each and every one that's here tonight, that we all come together to better this community, Douglas County. We thank you for the love, the peace, and the increase that you are adding to this community and to the lives of those who live here. We thank you for love and unity, and most of all, peace. And we give you all the praise tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the pledge, and thank you, Pastor Horton, for the invocation. We appreciate that. I'll go over the announcements and presentations for this evening, and then we will get into the agenda. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville's City Council Legislative Work Session. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm Mayor of the City of Douglasville. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion, and no official action will be taken this evening. Official action will be taken next Monday, the 15th, at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from Citizens and Delegates section for you to discuss your business. Just a few protocol issues I'd like to go over these items, and then we will adhere to the agenda. There are printed agendas out on the desk outside of the chambers, and or you can follow with the technology that's above us. So I'd ask that you please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning, and if you have a second deviation, we'll discontinue you having the opportunity to speak this evening. We'll turn your microphone off. Each person has 5 minutes to speak. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers. Speak from the audience. Carry on conversations or cheer. We ask that you would just direct your comments and questions to the chair when you come forward. I remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during the required public hearings. And if you have a cell phone or any electronic device, please put those in silent mode or turn those off until after the meeting so they will not be disruptive. Now, this is how the agenda items will be handled. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item. Then that person representing the agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. You'll come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record, please. Myself and council members will possibly ask clarifying questions to help us make our decision next Monday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes for those in favor of the item, 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to present. And when you come forward, please give us your name and address for the record. There are cards as well outside, if you'd like to speak, that you should put your name and address on those cards. And when you come forward, hand that card, please, to our city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right with the beautiful powder blue shirt on. Each person has 5 minutes in totality. Again, there are 20 minutes for those in favor, 20 minutes for those in opposition. You come forward, give us your name and address, and then just let us hear what you have to say. You have 5 minutes, but it's not a question and answer or debate format. We're just here to hear the information, deliberate, and make our decision on Monday. Okay, if you have anything that is printed and you would like to distribute that information, we ask that you would please give that to the city clerk. Ms. Acker will make copies and hand those copies out to us at another time. Those are all the protocol items that I have to go over. And now we will follow the agenda that is presented. And the first committee is Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then to Finance Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have several items tonight.
Okay.
Item A, adopt an ordinance to adopt the City of Douglasville's fiscal year 2021-2022 Amphitheater Capital Project Fund budget. Ms. Cowan will handle this.
Yes, thank you. Karen Callan, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street. The total project budget for this is $18.9 million. $18.6 million you'll see as the program manager's budget on page 4 of your agenda. Then we have interest expense of $223,000 for a total budget of $18.9. That budget will be funded through 4 different sources. The first source is our SPLOST. We have $1.9 million allocated to that. $1 million of that is reserved as equity, which is earmarked to serve as the qualified equity, which allows tax exempt status for these bonds. Bond proceeds of $15.3 million, tax allocation district of $300,000, and the general fund contributed $1.3 million for the demolition of the old jail and the purchase of the land. So this budget amendment is adopting the bond proceeds and the TAD piece of the overall budget.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan. We didn't have too many comments. Anybody have anything they want to ask? Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Ms. Callen, for the overview. And so for the viewing audience, this is for the downtown Town Green Amphitheater.
Yes, ma'am.
And dirt moving, as Mayor Pro Tem asked, Mr. Thompson, if you can tell us when and what the process is. People ask us all the time, when's the Town Green going to start? When are you guys, we're going to see something happening?
All right. Marcus Thompson, City Engineer,
Yes, sir.
6701 Church Street. Right now, we're finalizing the land disturbance permit process. Should wrap that up before the Thanksgiving break. After the break, Rayland will begin construction. And
Okay.
also, I want to confirm with Councilman Miller. Didn't want to tell you the wrong thing in committees. I usually hate to be wrong, but there was a boring report initially completed. There were some existing field areas and found like some plastic, asphalt, roof shingles, and concrete fragments. But other than that, everything looks good. Yeah.
There's no major rock. That's the important
No,
thing.
sir.
We don't want to run into that because that's really causes you additional cost and delays, but that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the land disturbance permit with WSA, the time frame for that, are we waiting for that as well, Mr.
Hopefully,
Thompson?
we should expect to wrap that up within the next 2 weeks, hopefully before the Thanksgiving break.
Okay, and I was thinking about, when you mentioned that earlier, around, it's a cemetery in that area. Is all that's clear to go? I know I shouldn't be talking about that's kind of making people nervous,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
the cemetery.
Yeah, we actually conducted a grave disturbance prior to us, initializing the bid process, and there was there wasn't any grave shifts present.
Okay, good,
yeah.
good. That's a
Had a-
sensitive area. We want to respect
Yeah.
the whole
Had an actual
area. for-
archaeologists come out and to report that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I want to add to what Madam Mayor said regarding the cemetery. There are definitive boundaries as to where the construction will go. So and a lot of people were wondering, is there going to be any intrusion onto the cemetery property? There will not be any intrusion. There's very clear boundary between, and there's a buffer between the cemetery and the construction. So there will not be any disturbance to anything in the cemetery.
And if I remember correctly, way back at the beginning of all of this, there was I forget what type of,
Like an
underground.
archaeologist or something?
right, where we made sure that
GPR, radar.
right,
monitoring, yeah.
yeah, something like that. And so all of that, I guess, came out good.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments from Mayor or Council? All
I don't see
right.
any.
I'd like to place this on the consent agenda if it's okay with everybody else. All right. Thank you.
Looks like it's a go.
All right. Item B, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Adopt an ordinance to amend the City of Douglasville's fiscal year 2021-2022 Tax Allocation District Fund. Ms. Cowan.
Yes, sir. Karen Callan, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street. And this budget is the other piece of our, what I mentioned earlier, the funding source that will transfer out of the Tax Allocation District Fund into the Amphitheater Capital Project Fund for $300,000. That is the amount that we collected our first year for our Tax Allocation District proceeds.
Okay, any questions or comments from anyone? All right, thank you, Ms. Cowan. If it would be all right, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda.
Looks like it's
Okay,
good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item C, adopt a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign the First Amendment to Tax Incentives Agreement with Microsoft Corporation, the Development Authority of the City of Douglasville, the Douglas County Board of Assessors, and the Douglas County Tax Commissioner. Ms. Woodward.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. This item is an amendment to the tax incentive agreement that you all have signed with Microsoft, I believe in 2020. The gist of it is that in exchange for Microsoft bringing better jobs with higher minimum wages or average wages, the city would grant ad valorem tax abatement on the first $400 million of capital investment that Microsoft brings into the city. Now, Microsoft has recently acquired another parcel of land that's adjacent to the data center that they're currently working on, and they would like to include that additional parcel into the program to count towards the $400 million. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer. Assistant City Manager Chelsea Jackson may have more information, but
Chris Pumphrey will be here on Monday.
oh,
Okay. Any questions tonight?
No, sir, I'll wait until the executive director from the Economic Development Authority comes so that I'll see the scope of what they're referring to, what Microsoft is referring to.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so obviously we'll hold that one over to Monday also. Item D, adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dougsville declaring the results of an election held on November the 2nd, 2021 concerning the Douglasville Referendum, General Obligation Bond for Jesse Davis Park, and for other related purposes. Ms. Woodward and Ms. Callan will handle this.
thank you, Councilman Watts. This was reported by staff at the 5 o'clock committee meeting. Basically, in the November 2nd election, the people have spoken and are willing to authorize the city to issue a $25 million debt in the principal amount for a period of 25 years for the upgrades to the Jesse Davis Park. We have, this resolution basically acknowledges the election results with 1,509 votes for the issuance of this debt and 743 votes against. The resolution also authorizes city staff and the district attorney to go ahead and pursue the validation proceeding in the Superior Court of Douglas County. I have Ms. Callan here and our bond counsel, Mr. Benjamin Brooks, here to answer any technical questions about the bond issuance, if you have any.
Okay.
All right, Madam Mayor, do you have anything?
Not really technical questions about the bond issue. We're excited that it passed, but a general question that people may or have asked is what is encompassing in the upgrades. If we can just have a general overview of what that is. I don't know if City Manager wants to say.
Actually, I was going to ask our Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Chris Bass, to come up and speak on the scope of the project.
Okay. Thanks so much. Just to give them an idea of what was voted on and what has passed.
All right, Greetings,
evening.
Madam Mayor and members of council. Chris Bass, 8830 Gurley Road. That's the Parks and Recreation Department Director. So just an overview of the project, as I pull up my notes here. Throughout our community meetings, we discussed several of the upgrades that will take place throughout this project. First being the current pool being demolished and reconstructed. That pool currently is 3,200 square feet, so we'll be renovating that to a 5,200 square feet pool that is zero entry. The synthetic turf added to the football field to replace the current field structure. We'll have 2 park pavilions replace the current structures. We'll have 2 additional playground units added in. In terms of the buildings itself, the Alice Hawthorne Community Center will remain within the park, but we'll also be adding a new gymnasium. That's a 20,000 square foot building with 2 floors that will entail a walking track at the top level. We'll have and also have an additional meeting room and concession area in that new gymnasium, and a workout nook upstairs as well. We'll have a additional community center that'll be used for additional rental space and programming opportunities. That's 8,000 square feet facility that will also be on the campus as well, along with a senior center, which we're really excited about. 2,865 square feet facility that will allow us to have additional programming opportunities for our senior citizens. And those will all be on the campus of J.C. Davis Park. And I believe those are all of the main new structures, but then the addition of parking, which has been a major issue at J.C. Davis Park. We'll keep our current outdoor basketball courts, like I say, again with the Alice Hawthorne Center, but then there'll be additional parking added along the park to accommodate the new facilities.
Very good. Thank you so much, Director Bass. The only other thing I was going to say is, I know it's a 25-year after we take the referendum and the bond, but the scope of the project for build-out, what's the time frame for that?
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
it's a phased approach.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll go in the phased approach. So right now, we're looking at 2 years in terms of how long the project will be complete. Of course, that may change depending on materials and things like that. So we'll be having a meeting soon with our city engineer and our architects to determine that timeline. So hopefully we'll be able to share that here soon.
Very good. Would you say, Councilman Davis, you got a sidebar? Do you have a sidebar? I know your father would be proud.
There, have good ears, Councilman Davis. There won't be a stage, but there will be a graded area between the senior center and the
new gymnasium.
and the new gymnasium for a performance arts area. Because of the grade they will add in, it'll be an amphitheater area, but there won't be a physical stage, but there will be an area where performances can be held, as well as graded seating where people can sit in an amphitheater area.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I did just want to make mention, although this is projected to be a 24-month project, with it being on a phased approach, certain amenities within the park still will be accessible. So that's something we're working on right now, putting together a transition plan so that we'll be able to have access. I know that was something that came up in one of the community meetings, you know, having the access to that pool. So
Yes.
that's something we're working on now.
And football for Tiger Cubs.
And football for Tiger Cubs, because we
Yes,
don't
sir.
want to displace them for too long. So,
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Bass, just real quick, did you mention the redoing of the field? I guess I didn't. Okay.
You said it was going to be turf.
Yes, sir.
And that'll be striped for 3 sports, or are we at that point yet?
Yes, sir. So it will be striped for football and soccer. Right now, that's something that we'll talk about during our meeting as far as how we're going to operate that throughout the year. But right now, we're looking at soccer and football.
Okay, because I was just going to suggest to consider lacrosse since it is headed our way. But anyway, that's,
And it's really exciting. I mean, this is going to be the entry point for the north side of town with that $111 million realignment of 92, that this park will be a gem to welcome people into the city of Douglasville coming through Paulding and Cobb County through Douglas County.
It's going
So,
to be great. It's going to be great. Thank you, Mr. Bass.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Chairman Bass.
Okay, thank you. I think we can maybe add that to the consent agenda also.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we're down to item E, authorize the city staff to apply for the Public Safety Officials and First Responders Supplemental Grant and authorize the mayor to sign the terms and conditions agreement and all related documents for this purpose. And Ms. Mann will handle this.
Alicia Mann, graduate fellow, 6695 Church Street. So in front of you, you have the terms and conditions agreement for the Georgia Public Safety Officials and First Responders Supplement Grant. That'll be coming from the ARPA funding from the state that was announced by Governor Kemp. That is giving a $1,000 pay supplement to law enforcement officials that had an active certification for the month of August of 2021. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Anybody questions about this item?
No, it's congratulations to our graduate fellow becoming before us. You don't have to be nervous. We won't bite.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no questions, thank you, Ms. Mann. I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday night also.
Yes, sir.
With that, Madam Mayor, we are out of things to talk about in the Finance Committee.
All right, thanks,
So,
Coach. We'll move on then to the next committee, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That is chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Personnel and Organization Committee is a boomerang back to you, Councilman Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight. Authorize the mayor to sign an application for the Georgia Municipal Association Safety and Liability Management Grant. And Ms. Austin Bing will handle this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tia Austin Bain, 6695 Church Street, Human Resources Department. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good
This
evening.
item before you is our annual request to submit the grant application to GMA for our safety and liability items. On your agenda attachment, you will see each department that is requesting reimbursement for these funds. We have listed out each item specifically for you to see where we are as far as the total for our request. Well over the amount that is allotted by GMA annually. Typically, it has been $10,000 on the safety side and $10,000 on the liability side. So each year, we try to take advantage of these funds to be able to reimburse the city for the items spent. You will see a total of $107,197.43 submitted for both safety and liability. We also have it listed, broken down, $84,598.82 on the property and liability, and then on the workers' compensation side, $22,598.61. You will see the item description as well as the notes for what these items that were purchased provided to the city. So we would like to request that this item be placed on consent so that we can go ahead and apply for those grant funds.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Any questions or comments from anyone? All right, thank you. We'll place this also on the consent agenda, if that'll be all right.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I had tonight. Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing, under Personnel and Organization.
Thank you so much, Councilman Watts, and thank you, Ms. Austin Bean, Director Austin Bean, for that report. We'll move on then to the next committee, which is Planning and Development Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're
We have
welcome.
several items tonight under Planning and Development, and Mr. Ryan, as he's coming up, I'll go ahead and begin reading the first item. This was tabled from November 1st. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Maxim Road Package Store for 1.678 acres at 800 Maxim Road, located in land lot 522, District 18, Section 2, Partial 3, for plans dated September 7th, 2021, application by Mr. Patel. This is item number 21-506. Mr. Ryan Anderson.
Good evening, Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The applicant seeks development plan approval of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville UDO Section 10.07 for property located at 800 Maxim Road. The proposal currently depicts a proposed package store with accompanying retail suites that will be available for rent. The proposed development will consist of a one-story structure totaling 8,750 square feet of new construction on a lot totaling 1.67 acres with 36 parking spaces. The applicant's proposed building would be primarily comprised of brick and glass with secondary materials consisting of parapet, metal, coping, and Cherokee brick, Greystone, and Charleston. This item is associated with a previous annexation and rezoning whereby the applicant successfully sought a change in zoning from OI with conditions county to GC city that was approved by Mayor Council in April 2021 without conditions. Since the rezoning was approved by council without condition, the applicant is eligible to develop any project within the GC zone list of permitted uses. Therefore, the associated retail suites on the development plan are permissible.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So this item was tabled because we had the council, our council members, several of us were asking the question in regards to what is the updated list as it relates to the commercial retail usage that would possibly be in the building?
I sent you guys an email the other day that contained all the permitted uses within. I sent you the permitted uses table, and it contains all the lists that are available within the GC, mostly retail, commercial,
Right.
fast foods, and doctor offices, dentist offices, and things of that nature.
Right, very detailed. So just wanted to ask our council member Miller and Councilman Watts and others, were you able to decipher, do the list, or you have any other questions?
I did look over the list, and thank you very much for sending it to me. I completely understand the information given. I just still feel as though we've applied for an application for a liquor store, and now we have something completely different. That's what I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So is the applicant here to answer any questions? Mr. Patel?
Good evening. Arpit Patel, 470 Manor Lane, Marietta, Georgia, 30067.
Okay. So, Mr. Patel, 2 weeks ago during our council meeting, our mayor council, that we tabled this item because of just some concerns in regards to what type of retail, commercial are you interested in? I think your question at that time.
I'm mainly interested in restaurants and
Just
package
restaurants?
store.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right,
I've already spoken with a couple franchises, and
okay,
they've already agreed to it.
Good.
So,
okay, great. Do we have any other questions for our applicant from anyone on our mayor and council at this time? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question, it's just a statement. We appreciate you, Mr. Patel, being forthright and telling us what you want to present. And of course, at this point, you did receive an approval from the council for your package store.
Yes, ma'am.
And now you're saying that the adjacent parcels will be what is allowed in general commercial, and you're stating that it will be restaurant.
Restaurants.
So we're taking your gentleman's word for that.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then also, just for our mayor and council to remember in our audience who's here physically with us and those that are viewing, is that if there are any businesses that will occupy space, they will have their own business license and they'll come before council to receive those.
That's right.
Okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Patel. We'll
Thank
make a
you.
decision on Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
All right. Thank you for your time. All right, the second item, this is also tabled from November the 1st. Consider a request for revised final plat approval for Chicago Park Phase 4 for the purpose of adding lots 121 through 133 for 40.59 acres at Chicago Avenue and land lot 224, District 2, Section 5. Parcels 2 and 15, applicant by AMH Development, care of Anderson Blakesley, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward. The applicant is requesting final plat approval for the purpose of adding new lots on the final plat 121 through 133 on Chicago Avenue. This is the revised final plat of Chicago Park Phase 4. The applicant is here.
Okay, thank you so much. The applicant will come forward. Thank you. Thank you. If you'll
My
state
name is
your-
Chad Swaim, 1029 Chestatee Point, Dawsonville, Georgia.
Okay. Thank you so much again for your patience and your time and coming back again for this item. So a couple of reasons why this was tabled is at the end of the council meeting 2 weeks ago, we had residents that had some concerns, and after the meeting, I did see that you had met with several of them, and we spoke afterwards as well informally. My question is, have you had a chance to set a defined time to meet with the residents, those that were not here? Do you have a set time and date for that?
No, ma'am. I had emailed Ms. Hampton. We are looking right now to replace the current management company with a different management company that we discussed some of the issues we have at Chicago Park, especially like the pool area. So if we can get this management company on board, then we will set a date to have an annual meeting with the residents.
So do you know, so you're not sure how soon you'll have a new management in place?
Our attorney, we've already
Okay.
received the proposal, and our attorney is reviewing it right now, so hopefully real soon. We're trying to move fast with it.
Okay, so my question to you is, prior to you hiring a new management company, property management company, could you have a date set to meet with the residents prior to?
Well, they would need to be there because they're the management company, so I wouldn't be able to set a date with the company if we haven't got them on board yet.
But if they haven't met with the property management, they can't meet with you all? I mean, I understand the property
Well,
management.
no, we would like
needs
the
to
property management to be there as meeting with us because they will be the ones managing the property.
Right.
So it's typically done together.
Together.
Yes, ma'am.
And then also, I've spoken with Ms. Ebony in regards to code enforcement, and if I may, I see that she's here, if she can come up and make some comments in regards to that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ebony
evening.
Jefferson, 6701 Church Street.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. So there were some items that we had talked about last week, and then you and I discussed in regards to the retention pond and just other code enforcement issues that the city could actually implement versus those civil items. But can you give us some comments in regards to your findings?
Sure. After the last meeting, staff and I went out to Chicago Park and we did a sweep throughout the neighborhood. Those items that we observed primarily were slight overgrowth in the right-of-way where the power lines were located, and we saw some vehicles that were at a resident's property. Those two items have been cited, as well as I spoke with Mr. Swain as it relates to cutting the right-of-way back. He agreed to cut it back 15 feet.
Yes, ma'am.
Feet.
Go back to the right of way.
Yes.
In that area, off that easement.
They're going to maintain that particular area. We did drive by the pool area in which it was clean. There was a lock and a latch pad on the gate, the pool gate, so no one could be in there as well. They do have no trespassing signs, which are located on the street area leading up to the parking area where the pool is located. As it relates to the detention pond, I did meet with with the engineer, Keel, on yesterday as it relates to the detention pond. The HOA is responsible for maintaining the detention pond. It will be inspected on Monday. I plan to accompany him out there as well. Once the inspection is completed, a letter will be sent to the HOA letting them know what items need to be addressed and taken care of. From that perspective, we will give them an opportunity to clean that area up and keep it maintained. Going forward, if there are any issues that is not being taken care of, we will have a partnership with WSA as it relates to the detention pond. So that way, if they do not get compliance, that we will step in and help them gain compliance so we can prevent these issues in the future.
Do you have a time on Monday?
We will meet approximately, probably at 9:30,
Okay,
about 9:30.
all right. Can you confirm that with me by email?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Will do.
great. All right, so with thank you, Ms. Jefferson. So I'm really happy that you did speak with the residents. I have to say that I am concerned that if you are waiting to meet with the residents because you want to hire the property manager first, I have some concerns of how long that's going to take. Because the residents have complained that there have not been a meeting for over a year, and the meeting that they did have was only 10 minutes. So I do have some concerns about you hiring the property manager, management company. I'm glad that you are, but the delay in how long you're going to have a meeting, I don't want to see this process drawn out.
No, ma'am, it's not our intent to draw it out, but it is the meeting is typically scheduled and managed by the management company. We will be there as representatives, but that's where they go over the annual budget. And it's their job to manage the community, if that makes sense. So we want to show good foot with this new management company because they're going to help us not have these continuing issues. So we would rather them be there to show that we're actually listening to them.
Right.
It's our intent to have it soon. I mean, for sure. I don't want to just give you a date to satisfy you right now, right? But we will continue to update.
Even if you didn't have a date, I do have a concern. If you don't have the property manager, why can't you meet with them? Why can't you meet with the residents?
I mean, I
And
can meet
just
with the
gather
residents, but the official
information.
meeting would be through the management company.
Sure.
We would do an official meeting.
Okay. Do I have any other comments or questions from our mayor and council? Yes, ma'am.
I do. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments. I did contact WSA and spoke to Executive Director Sherrouse, and he talked to the city manager, and they had a written report that they sent over, and again, they've set up a meeting for Monday to do research on the retention pond, and I'd spoken with Chief Sparks about cameras, but that was an issue as well, but it was relayed to me that it's private property, and so we would have to have permission from the HOA or the developer to put a camera in for the police department. We just can't go and put a camera inside of a private subdivision. So we need to get permission to do that. And I
Madam
believe
Mayor?
you already have cameras anyway, but.
We do have cameras.
Yes, sir.
And our the management company we want to hire works well with the police department. They've actually worked together to clean up another community we have. And we have already discussed that with them.
Okay.
So,
And from my understanding, please correct me if I'm incorrect, is that Chicago Park does not have the HOA is currently still under the builder. It's not the resident, so it's not technically filed with the state. Is that correct?
no, ma'am, it is filed with the state.
But the builder is in charge, not the homeowners.
The declarant rights are still with the developer and not with the residents, correct?
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, and I think that's how it is at the state until they turn it over to the residents, so it has to be built out. And that's how it is with all the other subdivisions as
Right.
well.
So it's been about, what, 10 years,
I mean,
give or
just
take?
recession stopped it from building, and it's coming back.
Right. I would really like to see a meeting with the residents
Yes, ma'am.
to just gather information and what you need to say to your property manager that you are going to hire. More than just an informal meeting outside of this
I understand.
building. Does that
Yes,
make
ma'am.
sense? Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much. We'll take this up on Monday.
Thank you.
All right. We have two other items, and I will yield and let Mr. Anderson read both of these together. He'll tell you how they're going to be
Okay.
tonight.
All right. Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. We'll be hearing items C and D together because one is an annexation with an accompanying rezoning. Consider a request, first item 21-509, consider a petition to annex 13.83 acres at Van Sant Road in land lot 902, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 18, and hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from RLD, Residential Low Density County, in the Highway Overlay District to PRD, Planned Residential District City, for 13.83 acres on Van Sant Road and land lot 902, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 18, application by SA Land Group, care of Adam Baker. The applicant is requesting to rezone, to annex and rezone approximately 13.83 acres from residential low density in the county to PRD in the city to develop 144 townhomes at a density rate of 10.4 units per acre. If the annexation is successful, the subject property will be annexed into the city's mixed-use design character area. The mixed-use design character area lists the PRD zone, formerly R6, as one of its recommended land uses. After a successful annexation, the project will be consistent with the city's future land use map. The subject property is contiguous to the city and meets the requirements to be annexed through resolution. The City of Douglasville UDO states that the intent of the document is to promote the orderly and beneficial development and expansion of the city. This proposed rezoning meets this intent. Once again, the PRD zone is a recommended land use for the area the applicant is requested to be annexed into. This use blends in well with the surrounding community and is anticipated to have a minimal impact on the existing community and could potentially inject some economic growth into the area. The proposed townhome will offer diverse housing opportunities that ensure that the objectives of the comprehensive plan are being implemented. Moreover, it will be the only housing of its type in the local community, and it will provide an opportunity for local residents to become homeowners and first-time homeowners. It is anticipated that this development also will not generate more than normal residential traffic on minor streets, and due to its close proximity to Interstate 20, this will further minimize the traffic impact. The proposed project is compatible with the surrounding land uses and will be a good transition from single-family development to future commercial development. The proposed townhouse community offers housing options within a structured community. The proximity to RLD zone properties and LI uses carries forth the mixed-use platform. If approved, staff recommends the following conditions. Reduce the requested number of units from 144 units to 124 units for a maximum density rate not exceeding 9 units per acre. Provide at least 10% of the total area for green space. Border south and southeast portion of the subject property with above-code landscaping. Provide fencing along the contiguous borders. Provide amenities such as trail, green space, or dog parks, or a dog park. Street lights along the frontage. Stagger fronts of the townhomes a minimum of 3 feet. Provide turnarounds at each dead-end street. Locate a mail kiosk and provide accompanying parking. All units are to be protected with automatic fire sprinkler systems. A camera system throughout the development, and a mandatory HOA. And there was one more, rental units capped at 20% of the total number of units. The applicant is here.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So the applicant can come forward, please. Thank you. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Adam Baker, 95 Miller Farm Road, Taylorsville, Georgia. Adam Baker's here tonight from SA Land Group. That's me. Stuart Wiggins, my business partner, is here as well. We are a residential development company and a brokerage company, and we specialize in delivering land and lots throughout Metro Atlanta. We do some gas stations and some apartment complexes, and are excited to be here with you guys tonight. As Ryan referenced to you, the project that we're proposing is currently in the county, and we would love to be in the city of Douglasville. So if you guys would let us, and we're proposing, let me flip to the slides here and see if the technology will work. Do you guys have a copy of the plan with you tonight? Mm-hmm. Good. Not sure if that's going to work. I love technology, but we'll just go ahead and talk through it then, if that's okay. So originally, we had a plan proposed, and through the Planning Commission, they had some concerns, and we tweaked up the plans accordingly. And you can flip to the next slide, if that's okay, whoever's running the PowerPoint there. So that's the original layout that we came in with. It was 144 units. As Ryan said, it was approximately 10.5 units to the acre. They came back and recommended that we reduce that to 124 units. Some different amenities, things like that. And so if you flip to the next slide, please. You can see we did tweak the plan up. That currently shows 131 units, and so we could reduce that down. We've got a walking trail throughout the park. We proposed a dog park there. There's a CBU for the mail, it's our mail kiosk. So all of that's been put in place. The townhome community, we're proposing a 22 by 40 product there. They'll have garages, a patio. Most of the units would probably be between 14 to 1,600 square feet. I don't have a crystal ball. I say that last time, I can't lie. I actually have one, but it doesn't work, you know? And so if you were to sell townhomes here today, we believe they would be in the low 200 price point range. And you know how the development works, but it takes some time before they come to market. And so this would be, you know, a year and a half to 2 years from now before units would become for sale. And they could potentially be higher at that point. We believe when you kind of look at a land use plan, a great place for density like this is close to major arteries. And from our traffic study, they referenced that there would be minimal impact. They had no mitigation requests made to this site. We believe that if you were to consider a place for density, you would want to put that near a major highway and a major interstate, which is this is what that does. To our west and to our north, our kind of northwest, we've got an industrial user there, and then to the east, single-family homes. And so how do you transition that and what works there? And typically a dense residential community like that from a land use planning standpoint makes sense. So transitioning from some sort of an industrial space to a higher density residential down to a lower density residential typically makes sense from a land use planning standpoint. I like to address, you know, who lives in townhomes. You know, these are people that are wanting some affordable housing options. You know, right now the marketplace rents are crazy high across the board. It's hard to find any residential options that are reasonably priced, and there's people who are looking to have ownership options that are reasonably priced. And so we think we're kind of coming in and meeting that demand for that. These are people that are willing to share a wall with their neighbor, so they're okay being close to some commercial. They're okay being close to some industrial. I don't know about you, I sleep with I live out in the boondocks, and I still sleep with my wife turns her white noise app on every night we go to sleep just for shh in the background, right? And so these type of people, they have neighbors that some wake up at 5 a.m., some get home at 12 a.m., and they're used to that and are very comfortable in this kind of an environment. If you drive down the Van Sant corridor, and I know that you probably all have and know it very well, but we think this is a great opportunity to kind of help clean up that street in that area. We talked to some of the people, some of the owners that live along Van Sant that we back up to with neighbors, and that seemed to be a concern for them. It's kind of that corridor, trying to clean that up. And not that this is the broken window theory, but we believe that if you build something nice here, that could lead to hopefully spur on some potential other developments along that corridor. I ran some quick math too, just for the sake of coming from the county to the city. I looked at a couple of tax bills on the Q Public site, and so this is not going to be exactly accurate, but it said an example tax bill that I found online for a $197,000 home. It looked like that house would generate for the city of Douglasville about $953 in taxes per year and about $84 to the bond. And so you guys would understand that better than me. But I based it on 144 units. These numbers are high based on 144 units, but that was approximately $137,000 to the city. And then another $12,000 per year to the bond. And so that's pretty significant funds coming into the city of Douglasville, which are not there today. And I'm trying to think of anything else that would be helpful to add. Yeah, and last thing I would say too, there's a lot of commercial along that corridor. You guys know this better than anybody, but rooftops help lead to retail. And right now we've got business owners that, they want more business. They need more business. And so providing rooftops close to businesses we think helps do that. And we also know that employers, they need more workers close to the jobs. And so to be able to provide some of these opportunities, we think helps fulfill that need as well. And so I'm open to any questions you guys have and any criticism, feedback, thoughts, you name it. I'm here to help out tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any comments or questions, Mayor, Council? Start with Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. I see Mayor Pro Tem smiling. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. It's good to have you in this evening. And Mr. Anderson, we appreciate the overview. I did have a couple of questions, and I'm not certain if this is for Mr. Anderson or not. Do we have any opposition from the county for the annexation from the county into the city?
Yes, sir.
No, actually, the county is interested in the project. Their planning staff is.
Okay.
So they've spoken with Mr.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, about the project. I'm not saying they tried to recruit him, but they,
They're not trying to push it off on us.
they kind of wanted, they were interested in the project a whole lot, a great deal.
Okay, and it's near I-20, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Because, I mean, it's
you have
near
to
the
go to
Quick
a-
Trip and all that
Yes,
area.
but you might have to go on a couple minor streets to get to the interstate, but it's right at the interstate, yes, ma'am.
Now, and Mr. Baker, you said that when I drove in the area, there is industrial, but isn't there like a mobile home unit or something?
So can
It's
we-
like two separate ones,
Do you mind
right?
going back 2 slides, please? There's a Google kind of aerial there. And so, are you able to see this aerial?
We have one in our packet.
Okay, great.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you see the red point there on that,
Uh-huh.
on the aerial, that just directly, and it's oriented correctly. So if you were to go directly north there, you would see Van Sant Road, and then Van Sant drops out onto 92 there. And so to the left or to the west is an industrial piece. Across the street, there's also some industrial. To the south, you referenced Quick Trip. There's some kind of automotive buildings to the south as well. And then to the east or to the right on your drawing is some single family. Across the street, there's a Montessori there, or an old Montessori that's now, I think, a residential home now. But that's kind of the lay of the land along Van Sant.
Okay. And I
Did
know.
that answer that for you?
Yes, sir, you did. And I know this is for zoning, but I just wanted you, when you mentioned in your opening statement that you all built in the metropolitan area, and this is for zoning, not the end result, but you know, sometimes we don't want to see the cake being made, we just want to see the icing in the cake being done. So in the end result, where have you all built that we can look at some models maybe, or some
Yeah,
examples?
sure. So we are developers, so that means that we take the raw land and turn it into lots. And then we do that for a fee basis for different builders or private equity groups, or we develop those lots with our capital partners and then sell those lots to builders. So from
Okay.
a vertical construction standpoint, I have not, I'd be lying if I said I've built maybe 4 or 5 houses, but like personal use for a couple of friends, but not for a living. We don't build houses, so we take raw land and turn it into neighborhoods. We did provide some renderings of what we think something could look like potentially here. And so if you could go maybe click 3 slides forward possibly, or backwards.
So we don't have any renderings.
Okay. Okay, that kind of shows you
That's the cake right there, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, so I like cake too, and I like all kinds of cake. I don't discriminate. I'm a huge fan of eating. I love pie, cake, all the desserts. But
Cheesecake,
so,
everything.
yes, ma'am, you name it. This is kind of a rough idea of what something could look like, and I do know there's some potential architects out there that may have some feedback too. But we would welcome any kind of feedback and thought there. And so our goal is to try to. We're open to potentially some conditions material-wise, and so we would be willing to say, for this community, a mandatory homeowner association, we know that that's important to maintaining a good quality community.
Yes.
We would be willing to say that we'd have no vinyl siding on the exterior of the wall, so some sort
I
of
like it.
a concrete or hardy kind of a
Brick,
material
stone,
or
stucco.
siding. Yes, ma'am, and so something that would not be vinyl, and so we'd be open to some things like that. And so we want to make sure it's a good quality piece. And to be honest with you too, I mean, you can't, and you guys know the market very well. I know we've got a real estate agent here too. I mean, to sell in this marketplace, you do need some good quality product. And so there's no way that someone's going to build just to get in and get out. I mean, to sell and to move at a velocity, you have to have a good quality product. And so we think that an HOA helps with the long-term maintenance of that. And then we think that there's some things that you can do in the beginning up front that help ensure that it's nice as well. So.
Okay, so the amenities is the dog park and
Yeah,
you
we did a
have
walking
pool and
trail.
tennis and walking trails?
We
And it's
didn't
just
do
passive?
pool, tennis, yes ma'am, more passive amenities, yes ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much,
Okay.
Mr. Baker. Thank you,
Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Chair.
All right. Councilman Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair, couple things. First of all, you've already answered one of my questions, that this property will have an HOA so that the residents that move in will have some say-so, correct? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I guess one of my questions is the reason for annexation. Why does the county, I mean, we consider all the time, changes in zoning, and I'm just wondering why the county didn't get this first.
They like us better.
Well, yes, sir.
Yeah, and so to be clear, the density, we can achieve the 144, the plan, what we had planned, at least from my discussions with the county, there was no issue with density or anything like that. And so density had zero factor in that. Just want to be clear on that.
But they-
So it's not like, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I guess, but they wouldn't approve this development under their current zone. And why would they not consider changing, like we consider all the time, changing a zoning designation?
Well, recently, the county, a few months ago, the county has adopted a new PRD. When they updated their zoning ordinance, they did adopt a new PRD zone that goes up to 10 units per acre. So they basically have a high-density zoning designation now. So he could build this in the county as presented, but he prefers to be in the city.
I see. Okay. My 5 years on the council, some of the complaints I've heard about townhome developments has been a high rate of rentals within that, and so some of the concerns that our constituents might have would be, something along those lines, that the developments don't hold up well over time, even if they're built by quality builders and everything. And we've heard recently complaints about, and I know we can't govern that, but I'm just curious. You talk about an HOA. Have y'all considered looking at that, restricting the number of rentals, for instance, in 124
They did.
townhome?
Coach, they put 20%, number 13.
20%?
And
Okay, I
20% the
missed
cap on the
Okay.
total number of units. And I stand corrected with density. I didn't realize that the county's new PRD went through and they can do 10 per acre. So that's good. So it's just better in the city. I'm just going to say that because I'm in the city, but.
Okay.
Yeah, but they do. They have a cap on 20% total number of units for rental.
Okay, all right, that answered that question. I missed that, and I think that's all I have for right now.
Is it okay if I make a comment to that too?
Certain, the chair?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And so there's a lot of times too where you have, and some people may be more versed in this than I am, but there's people that if you have a VA loan or an FHA loan and some of those things too, I can't remember the exact clause, and I'm counting on Ms. Miller to tell me what it is, but I think in there they reference something about like I don't know if it's like an emergency clause or something like that, but I think that there's in events where you could have a tough time getting a loan in the event that there's not an option for you to be able to rent your home in the event of some sort of an emergency or things like that. And so especially for people with the VA, imagine that you have someone in the military who leaves, they're still making money, but they're not there. And so is there an option for them to be able to rent their home and things like that? And so to be able to have some sort of an opportunity to rent your home, we think is important, even in the event of God forbid, some other kind of a natural disaster, anything like that. People hit a bad opportunity, something happens and someone needs to rent their house and they can't afford to pay their mortgage. Having that opportunity we think is important, but we're not proposing that it be a rental community or anything like that. So I just want to at least clarify that having some sort of an option is very important to the community. So.
Yeah, and I guess we've been inundated with some communities that during the downturn of the economy a few years ago, and they're just coming back online, that a lot of those homes are being rented out, and it's an influx of people. It's like a revolving door, and the residents who have invested in the community with purchasing a home, they don't have the same quality of, investment and care as some of the rentals do. So if we have a big conglomerate that comes in and they buy up all these rental homes within the subdivision or the townhome community, and you have a group that's been invested and want to pass their homes down to their children, it's just, the mindset is different. So
I-
we've been getting
I
some of
agree.
those concerns about a lot of rentals within the community. So we're promoting all types of options for housing.
Which I think is fantastic. And I think too, just, not that you're asking for this, but just to speak to that briefly, like, since you brought it up, if it's okay to comment on that. But I'm a fan of either having, kind of what's being proposed, some sort of a cap like that, or either nothing. And so there's a lot of times with the rental communities, we work with some unbelievably nice rental communities, and I'm not proposing that at all, but I just want to clarify, because I know there's some groups that do a great job, some do a poor job, but we've worked with some, and they'll spend $40 to $50 million on an asset, and when they're doing that, they maintain, I would build a neighborhood side by side with one, and 10 years later, the one that's owned by the renter, I would be willing to bet every penny that I own that community would look nicer 10 years from now than a fee simple, because the group that owns that $50 million, $100 million asset, they maintain it. They check every person who comes in there. They've got great systems in place, and so it's a very valuable asset to them. And so those types of communities with the right group are unbelievable and very well maintained and great options for communities. But they do get a very bad rap in some instances too. And so I just want to at least point that out. I could take you to some that they would blow you away. So anyways, just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Thank you so much for being so transparent. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for hitting that right on the nail.
And no shade, as they say, my children against rentals. I rented for 10 years in
Sure.
D.C.,
Me
so
too.
it's a market.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Lease to own, just have to
Mayor
get
Pro
there
Tem?
first. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilwoman
I'm
Miller
sorry,
wanted to go.
Councilwoman Miller.
So-
I
Thank you.
apologize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions right quick. On the units, I'm assuming that they're going to be probably, 2 to 3 bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am. So
And-
most would probably be a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath option. And then you have some times where someone says, you know what, I'd rather have larger rooms maybe in that upstairs space and have 2 instead, or in a loft, something like that.
So are you looking at doing a 1-car garage or 2?
So on this plan, it shows a 1-car garage.
And is that going to be on all of them then, or just this one certain plan that you're showing us?
I would just brought in a rendering just to show what could potentially be here.
Okay.
And so that, there could be
Specific
variations.
plan. Okay. And then I know it mentioned streetlights on the front street. Does that mean that they're not going to be throughout the development?
So when we talked originally, I wasn't aware of that as a condition, which it's fine to have streetlights. Stuart, can I punt to my business partner? He's the one,
Yeah.
he's the dirt guy. I mean, so I'm just like not even a pretty face, But Stuart, typically in residential communities, are we running streetlights throughout the entire community? Or
Yeah, if you'll
I'm
come up
sorry.
and,
Yes.
right, that's okay.
Is
If
that
you'll
okay?
please come up and state your name and address for the record, give comments, thank you.
Stuart Wiggins, 73 Miller Farm Road in Taylorsville, Georgia. We would have streetlights within the development, and whoever the underground utility provider would require a lighting plan for us as well. So there would be obviously the underground power and streetlights as well.
Okay. And also sidewalks? Do you,
Yes.
You said, yeah? I mean, typically yeah. Yes.
yes? Okay. And I feel like, I'm sorry, it turned into chicken scratch here. That might be all my questions for this moment. All right, yeah.
And if you have another question later, I mean, you guys can email me, call me anytime.
Okay.
And we know this is zoning and not building, but we're just trying to get an idea. We're trying
No,
to
I understand.
Put
I
the
think it's
icing on the
great.
cake and cherries on top.
Yes, ma'am, I understand completely.
Okay, all right, Mayor Pro Tem,
Thank
you
you.
have 1 second. No, I'm kidding.
She said 1 second.
I'm kidding.
5 minutes.
Is that a geological second or a
kidding.
human second?
Go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not mistaken now, we do require sidewalks and streetlights for all new developments, is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I was gonna say, if we don't, then we're incredibly remiss at the moment, so I just want to make sure of that. I forgot your name again, I'm sorry. Adams? Okay. You said all the right words in your introduction. I was encouraged by your description of density and the purpose of density and the effect that has on other operations in the city and other developments, commercial and so forth. That's very well spoken and well taken. I'm a little disappointed, though. We don't have on our packet, we don't have the revised site plan that you.
Can I pass one out to you? Is that okay?
I'm okay with that if the council is okay, if Madam Chair is, I should say.
To our city manager to my right, please.
Yeah. I'll just jump ahead only because I could see the reflection on the window in the back, so I got a little bit of a sense of what it was. And I understand that you're trying to take into account the critiques given, thank you, by staff and trying to meet their requests. But unfortunately, I think you kind of went backwards on the development on the site plan. You went from 2 dead ends to 4 dead ends on the site. Now, you have an opportunity in that because you were requested to reduce the number of units, it would have been nice to see you take that one street and then continue it on upward to the, to the top street. I mean, and then continue the other short dead end back into the other street as well, to make it, to kind of unify that neighborhood. Right now, you just got, everything is a dead end now, and I think that's sort of going in the wrong direction. That's my opinion. And I guess on top of which, there really are just simply dead ends. They're not even cul-de-sac dead ends where you have turnarounds on. So it would be my preference to see that develop more in a little more of a gridded fashion. I think that makes a better sense of community. And again, we've been talking about connectivity, and we're talking about pedestrian friendly neighborhoods, and that would, I think, really promote the idea of walking throughout the neighborhood. I'll throw another idea out there. I can imagine you're probably too far along in the planning, but I'll throw it out anyway. It would have been nice to see alleyways behind, so that you could have taken the garages and put them in the back of the house. If you want a good example, if you take a look at Tributary, is one of the neighborhoods in our city where is designed in the new urbanist fashion. So the idea is to, again, make the sidewalks and the streets in front much more pedestrian friendly rather than, welcoming to cars instead. It seems to be our fascination of it's the reality of the times we live in, but it'd be nice to, pretend that that cars aren't the most important things to us. I did appreciate your comment. You mentioned the broken windows theory, and I like the fact that you know what that is. And hopefully that will be a spark for this particular area. But I think that, that's just generally my comments pretty much revolve around most of those ideas. That it would be nice to see you eliminate some, if not all, of those dead ends, and unify that community in a way that really gives it a much more pedestrian quality and a much more, gives it more of a sense of a neighborhood rather than everybody identifying with their one little dead end where they live in. They can now start to identify with a larger entity, which is what that whole area would be. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Comments?
Yeah, great feedback, and thank you so much for that too. And just to clarify, when we right before we had met, we had the creek had been delineated out, and so when we were on the site, it didn't appear that creek went all the way through, and so our environmental engineer had assessed that creek went through the site, and so originally we had that street go in there, and so the reason why the engineer did that is because to eliminate an additional creek crossing there, and so that was kind of the intent behind that, and so it really wasn't a design, it wasn't a, it was more of a function over a design decision, I think, by the engineer, and so that's just kind of a decision that he had made. We had this feedback from you guys, and I was like, if you guys could quickly try to, tweak this up a little bit beforehand, I'd like to at least kind of show a revised plan. And so that was the intent behind that. And so that I took very good notes, and we'll go back and talk through that.
And bridges are great opportunities for design. If you've ever been down to Serenbe and you see how they, they bridge creeks there in some parts of the neighborhoods, or they create, or their path, or their walking trails and so forth. I mean, that's another good example of something. I mean, it's a little outside the price range here, but
that's part of it. And so we did incorporate a couple of walking trail bridges that are in there too, and those aren't anything to blink at either. But I mean, typically in the 10,000 to 15,000 per bridge for something like that. But
in the bigger scheme of things, it's not too bad. I mean,
yeah,
it's a good design opportunity for you to bring something, a nice feature, and that could really, I think it would sell your property, quite frankly, if you had something like that.
Very good.
A lot of other properties don't have. So I mean, if you can always look for something like that where you can it's an amenity that creates an attractiveness, and it gives back to the community at large as well.
That's right.
So,
Thank you very much.
Zoning, zoning.
I'm still going to look at the cake at the end of the.
I know.
Madam Mayor, I can't.
Okay, I
can't
know.
help it.
So, Mr. Anderson, a question that I had from Mr. Anderson yesterday is, I know that intersection, I've driven it before, Van Sant, is during peak hours, the traffic. And you had mentioned that the county was interested at one point in the light, is that right? Is that this one?
I don't think I said they were.
That's not this
interested in
one?
light. No, not this
The
one.
next
no.
one, I'm sorry.
And, but they have an approved traffic study, so it came back saying
Okay.
That they didn't need one.
That they did not need one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with all the questions, like the rendering, do we still need to go ahead and move forward with the public hearing? Since there are questions at this, yes?
You have it down for an annexation and a zoning, so yes,
Okay.
you need to ask if there are any people here that wish to speak in favor of it or against it.
Okay. All right, so we're doing the annexation first. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for a public hearing. If there are any individuals here that are in favor of this annexation, you may come up now. If you are in favor.
There's no requirement to have public input on the
Okay.
annexation. That's totally
Just zoning, okay.
discretionary of the count. It's the zoning that you'll need.
All right, thank you. All right, I will open the floor for a public hearing for zoning. Do we have anyone here who is in favor of rezoning? Do we have anyone here who is in opposition of this being rezoned? You may come up now, please. If you have not filled out a card that's in the back, you can get one from up here up front, and you can go ahead and come to the podium, state your name and address, and make your comments, and then afterwards, if you'll please be so kind and fill out a card and give it to our clerk to my right. Thank you, sir.
My name is Glenn Rainwater. My address is 128 South Lakeshore Drive, Carrollton, Georgia.
Yes, sir. Okay.
I'm a partner in a building there on Van Sant Road. Van Sant Road, as someone mentioned a minute ago, is a very busy traffic road. In the afternoons, backs up a long ways. We own 4179. It's a commercial building on the right. We store stuff in the building. We have a liquidation company, and we strictly use it for storage. And we also allow the gentleman that does a filter change for the school systems. They also use the building for many school systems to store their filters. We oppose this, one, because of where they're putting the drainage and the runoff pond. Another, because of the traffic it's going to create on that roadway. It will further damage the area with that much more traffic. I know he showed y'all some nice looking little homes. Eventually these homes run down. The people that buy these homes, he spoke of people who are struggling, people who are trying to make ends meet. Well, if I'm trying to make ends meet, I'm not going to buy no $200,000 townhome. I'm going to look for something more in my budget. There is a creek that runs through that property, that runs along the back of our property. That creek is very active to the point down behind the lower end of our property, there is beavers, there is a dam that recreates itself. The minute we tear it apart, they recreate it. There's a lot of floodplain. I just wish that y'all would reconsider this zoning and not allow this to continue. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rainwater.
Thank you so much for your comments. Do you have anyone else here to oppose? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. If you'll please fill out a card. Thank you, ma'am. If you'll please state your name and address for the
Yes,
record.
it's Cheryl Nunley, 3973 Van Sant Road. I am the next-door neighbor of this proposal. I don't necessarily oppose it. I just have some requests. I would like to request that a 60-foot buffer be placed between this development and our home, which is to the east of the development. And maybe with the buffer, leave the existing trees, maybe 60 feet. I just think that it's going to, create more noise, and we already have the noise of I-20, where the trees were taken down, and we have the noise of Van Zant Road, which is a very busy street. I'm worried about the children that will be in this community. If it's first-time homeowners, there will be a lot of small children. That road is extremely dangerous. The speed limit is 25. Most people go probably 60, which would be a super speeder, They do not stop at the stop sign coming from Burnt Hickory, turning right onto Van Zant. They do not stop. They slow down, make the turn, and they floor it. I think that something needs to be done traffic-wise to make entering and exiting this proposal safe. Right now, it would not be safe. If it is just dumped directly onto Van Zant, it would not be safe. I would also like to ask that 2-car garages be required on all of these units. With the short driveways that I see in the photos, and with the minimum probably of 2 cars per unit, they will end up parking on the street, which is going to create an eyesore and probably a safety issue for children trying to play around their homes. Let's see. And I have already addressed the traffic issue. With 124 units, 2 cars per unit, that's an additional 248 cars right there dumped onto this street. And the additional development on Burnt Hickory, these folks would also be traveling Van Sant Road to get to I-20. And that would be 92 units, so an additional 184 cars. I just think that it needs to be studied from a traffic standpoint to ensure safety in the area. And I guess that's about all I had to add. My mother actually owns the property. She was not able to be here. She was ill. But she was here last week and plans to be here next week. But I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank
Ms.
you so
Nunley?
much.
Yes.
May I have your address? I apologize.
3973.
3973 Van Zant.
It is
Thank
directly
you.
next door to this property.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other? Yes, ma'am. You can come up in opposition. Make sure you fill a card out.
My name is Cindy Welch. I
Yes,
reside
ma'am.
at 3002 Concord Way. I just have a couple comments. Mr. Baker was talking that he is only going to develop the property, and we're asking about what the houses are going to be, what the garages. Well, he doesn't have a say in that because he's just going to develop it and sell the lots. So I would hope that you'd put some conditions so whoever he sells it to has to meet those conditions. And again, 2-car garages. If you look at the 2 streets going to the east, if he would back those units or move the units closer to the street and then put an alley in so the garages could come off the rear of the buildings, it would look so much better. The houses may be closer to the street, but you're not going to see garages or cars parked in the driveways. And he could do that with a couple of those. The other thing is, I know you've heard about traffic, and I know it's a county road, but I would hope that you get with the county and make sure he puts in a decel lane, and then when you're coming off Midway Road, put in a turning lane, because there's going to be a lot of cars, and if they're waiting to turn into it, the cars are going to back up on Midway Road on the bridge over 20, waiting for cars to make that left turn. And I would think that would help a lot. And you've already heard about the buffer, but I mean, those are the things that I would suggest that you look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Okay. Would you like to respond?
Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate, I know I'm supposed to address the council, but I want to say I do appreciate people sharing their concerns and feedback. And just to take a quick second to address those, I think all three, Mr. Rainwater, Ms. Nunley, and Ms. Welch, all reference traffic. And so we did, I'm no traffic expert. I like to think that sometimes I am, but we did spend $7,000 for a traffic engineer to evaluate this site. And the traffic, and you can read the study. I think it's been provided to you all, but it's an 80, 100-page document. I mean, it's a huge document. And the ultimate summary says that that they would recommend zero mitigation to the site, that would produce minimal traffic. And I do want to remind people who live in the townhomes, and Mr. Rainwater kind of addressed this, this isn't just, I didn't want to say that the people that live in a townhome, I'm not trying to imply that they're downtrodden and woe is them for only being able to afford a house that's $200,000. In my mind, that's a significant investment. I'm saying that there's a lot of people in the community who want affordable housing options that don't exist. And so I think that there's not many options that are in this price point, and that's what I was saying. I didn't want to misstate that earlier because I think that there's some phenomenal people in all kinds of income brackets across the board, and so people are looking for home ownership opportunities. The people that typically live in a townhome, what I was wanting to say though is that they're not typically on a 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 schedule. You find some of them that go to work early. Some they go at all kinds of different times, and that's taken into account in that traffic study. I do want to reference that we did say we would put up a fence along the border of the property. So if you're a neighbor of this property, we're willing to put that fence up to kind of serve as a buffer there and a hedge, not only for security, safety, sound, any of those kind of things. I do know that sound was brought up and noise. The reality is that I don't know that there's many people that choose to live here along Van Sant for peace and quiet. I mean, when you live by 92 and the interstate, it's almost like background noise at some point, and so you become used to that. And I'm not excusing the fact they're saying that there'll be no noise created from the townhome community, but I'm just saying that people that choose to live here are used to that, and that's very normal and common in this type of environment. The pond, I know Mr. Rainwater brought up the pond. I do want to say that we have to have a place for drainage. That is the lowest spot on the site, and they typically are near creeks, and so it's not like we chose that site just because it was the best spot on the site for us to lay out a townhome community. It's literally the best spot from the way that God gave us the land that we're laying out and designing. And then as it relates to conditions on the site, I mean, the reality is that, and you guys have stated this, I mean, we're here to talk about land use and not necessarily, the vertical construction of the buildings, but I do understand that that's important. And we will follow the Uniform Development Code that you guys have to a T. We will not be allowed to build anything that you guys do not sign off on and that's not compliant with the code. And so I just want to make that point that it's not just the Wild West where we can, we get a zoning and we can just do whatever we want. And so we'll be within those guidelines and are happy to abide by those. And I think that answered most of the comments that came up. Hopefully we addressed those well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other comments or questions?
Just, Madam Vice Chair, going forward, if these two items were approved on Monday, at some point, developers, as he said, the developers are going to have to come before us as far as what they want to put in there. So, I mean, I have to remind myself this is a zoning matter. It's not
Right.
But I appreciate that being pointed out that they will adhere to.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Councilman Watts. Madam Vice Chair, one of the things I'll suggest to you all between now and Monday, you may want to talk with your zoning staff and legal about certain conditions for future builders that you may want to apply if there are any. Because of right now, when the zoning is approved, They will be regulated by what's in the development code. So if there are things outside of the development code that you want to consider for that future builder, I would highly suggest that you have that conversation between now and Monday with your staff so that they can communicate with the applicant.
Prior to,
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
Okay. We are just so passionate about what we do.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. There are no other items tonight under development.
Did you have E?
Did I do E? That was E. I'm sorry, we
You
have
have one more.
One more, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. E. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from PUD zoned property to amend the special stipulations of zoning for 18.5 acres at the intersection of South Burnt Hickory Road and Midway Road in land lots 836, 837, and 902, District 18, Section 2, Partial 2, application by SA Land Group, CO Adam Baker.
Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The applicant is requesting to amend the special stipulations of zoning on an 18.5 acre tract of land to develop 66 townhomes and 28 single-family detached residences at a density rate of 5 units per acre. The subject property is part of a mixed-use design character area. The mixed-use design character area lists the PUD zone, formerly DCD, as one of its recommended land uses. The proposed project will be consistent with the city's future land use map. This amendment will be less intensive than the current conditions, which allow for two 37,500 square feet commercial development buildings and over 50 single-family residences. The City of Douglasville UDO states that the intent of this document is to promote the orderly and beneficial development and expansion of the city. This proposed amendment meets this intent. The PUD zone is a recommended land use for the area the applicant is requested to be amended. This use blends in well with the surrounding community, as it is anticipated to have a minimal impact on the existing community and could potentially inject some economic growth to the area. The comprehensive plan has a principal aim of preserving the quality of life of all citizens. The proposed townhomes and single-family detached residences provide the area with diverse housing opportunities and ensures that the objectives of the comprehensive plan are being implemented. It is anticipated that the proposed development also will not generate more than normal residential traffic on Minor Street. The proposed project is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The proposed development is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan changing conditions, which include a 12% population growth within the city of Douglasville within the past decade. According to a recent housing study on behalf of the city will need to develop at least 144 new housing units per year to stave off a potential housing shortage, as population growth is anticipated to continue well into the next decade. Two primary objectives of the mixed-use design character area is intended to be relatively large scale on 10 or more acres and to have two or more different types of residential densities. This project could attract future commercial activity and growth in the area. If approved by Mayor and Council, staff recommends the following condition. Number one, a mandatory housing association. Percentage of the rental units capped at 20% of the total number of units. Stagger the fronts on the townhomes a minimum of 3 feet. Provide turnaround areas at each dead-end street. Locate mail kiosks and provide parking. All units are required to be protected with automatic fire sprinkler system. This pertains mostly to the townhomes. Camera system throughout the community, and develop with amenities, preferably a trail and or a dog park. The applicant is here.
Thank you. So actually, C, D, and E are together. No?
E is another.
E is another one,
They're
okay.
different addresses and land lot.
All right.
Okay.
Still have to have a public hearing. Okay. All right, so do we have any, I'm sorry, go ahead. You can come make some comments. Don't mean to have you doing a seesaw, I apologize.
It's okay. I know everyone's ready to get rid of me tonight. Is it possible for Adam Baker, 95 Miller Farm Road, Taylorsville, Georgia, 30178, and back again. And so we have a completely separate presentation for this slide, if you're able to back out of that. It's called, I don't know, not that one. while we're talking about it, while they're working through the technology, I'll go ahead and talk about the project. As Ryan said, 18.5 acres, 66 townhomes, similar to what we kind of just previously talked about on Van Sant, with 26 single-family homes. And so consider townhomes very similar from the discussion that we previously had. From a single-family standpoint, houses would be kind of in the 1,800 to 2,400 square feet, so there'd be a variety of different options on square footages, bedroom, bathroom counts, things like that. You'd have the flexibility to have a lot of different options there. This would come out to, but when you blend the townhomes and the single family together, this is just under 5 units per acre. And I want to just point out, as Ryan discussed, right now we could, on this site, do a 75,000 square feet of commercial space, 50 single, or 50, I think it was is it like age-restricted townhomes, I think, and then a daycare. And so I don't know how that combination came to be, but that's what could currently go on there now. And so this is, like Ryan said, this is a much less intensive use from a traffic standpoint. We also did a traffic study here. They basically said the same thing, no mitigation. They did reference that we need to have a ride into the property. Again, just to kind of the quick math on this would be, again, approximately, again, using that previous example, around $87,000 to $88,000 a year approximately to the city, and about $7,700 to the bond if we use that previous example of a $197,000 tax bill that we noted. And again, I just want to reiterate too, this is again, this has a variety of housing options. We did talk about having, again, a mandatory HOA here. This one would, I'm trying to think of any other conditions that we talked about that were important. You referenced the rental cap. You also referenced the mail kiosk, the turnarounds. We have hammerheads in place for turnarounds as it's designed here. We've met with staff on that. Also, too, just important to note, too, that on these streets, that these are between the city and the county, we have to meet with the traffic engineers here. And so when this gets laid out, before you can get a land disturbance permit, and I think you all know this, but I just want to reiterate this, that we have to meet with the traffic engineers, whether it's depending upon where every development is, whether it's a state-controlled road, a city road, a county road, we have to meet with those traffic engineers, and obviously we'll abide by anything that they suggest, and they have that traffic study to use and employ as they make decisions. And beyond that, I do want to say too, we met with Somerset, the HOA community there, and then we also met with the Arbor Mill community across the street, and we had no negative feedback from them. And we've talked to them about a sewer easement as well, and so they seem very supportive of the sewer easement and had no feedback to our team. And so, I'm trying to think of anything else. I guess that's really it, and I would open the floor to questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, I'll open the floor for our mayor and council. Questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, what I said before, wash, rinse, repeat, okay?
Yes, sir.
All that. But I do have an additional question or slash comment. And maybe this is a bit more of a development question, but I think it also does speak to the zoning as well in this case. Why didn't you align the entrance to this development with Midway Road so that you could actually make a 4-point intersection?
Yes, so there's a creek there, and so that's the reason why.
I mean, is it a big drop-off? Is it prohibitively, cannot be engineered into that location?
I'm not an engineer, and so anything can be done, I'm sure. But the reason it was laid out this way is because of that creek that was in the way. And so you can see on that, I think you guys have a copy of the plan, is that right? So you can see those lines that are delineated out, the reference to creek. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to, no insult in there, I didn't mean to, yeah.
It just seems, I mean, is there a floodplain there that are requiring a setback off of that, or is that just simply a topographical issue that you're in?
So when the state, with a creek, there's a 50-foot area that's undisturbed that you cannot disturb.
Right.
And then after that, there's a 25-foot that you can disturb, but it's considered a setback that you can't build in.
I mean, you wouldn't be building, you would just be building a road.
Correct, for roads are different, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other question would be, like, again, I think it's also sort of, well, it's development, but it also addresses, it overlaps to me as far as zoning goes, is why not have a second entrance into this? Why not have 2 entrances off of Burnt Hickory? So again, to reduce traffic, and issues like that, you're going to have everybody coming and going inside one entrance, and especially because of the awkwardness of it locating right past the intersection with Midway. Even if you did a decel lane there, I think you're going to create an engineering issue for yourself, so.
That's great feedback, and that's what we want to rely on those traffic engineers for that feedback, and when we got that feedback, it didn't reference that. However, as we meet with the county and the city on the roads, that I think this, Ryan, help me out, is this a county road? It's a county-controlled road, and so we'll have to meet with them to discuss those types of things. And so if they come back and they say, you've got to do this alignment, we're definitely open to that. And there is floodplain too on the south side of the property there off the creek as well.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be doing any building over there. It would just be an access road on that, as far if that was feasible. Anyway, that's all, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Yes.
I was curious, I'm sorry, thank you,
Yes, sir.
Madam Vice Chair. The size of the lots for the single-family detached homes, approximately, how big will those lots be? I mean, I know the computation for the 5.1 or whatever it was is based on townhomes, and I just was curious about lot size.
So those were proposed at a minimum of 55 feet wide by 110. So they'll vary as well, you know, like if you, along cul-de-sacs and different areas, but a typical lot size on this plan was 55 by 110.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
Councilmember Miller, do you have any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes,
ma'am.
is the lack of pool because you haven't gotten to that part yet, or because there won't be one?
I would say highly unlikely to have a pool. And the reason why is too, on some of these amenities, when you're doing price points for residents trying to buy things, affordability goes into the equation. And so with the townhome component and the single-family home component, you have about 92 units is what's being proposed here. And so if you were to take that additional homeowner expense out per month, and I know it's not significant, but all those things kind of play into it. And on a community this size, typically there's not big amenities like that typically. They tend to find more passive amenities and things like that in smaller communities. And so more than likely there would not be a pool there or kind of clubhouse set up.
I think kind of going back to what Councilman Miller said, if the two could be added, then it would be a larger development. So if there was one shared pool, would that not work?
I don't know if I'm understanding the question.
Is that crazy?
No, no, you're not crazy. I don't know if I understood your question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
He's saying it's not.
Okay, I guess I was thinking that they were adjacent. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so this one, if you were to look at the map there, this one's actually across on the opposite side of I-20. So it's a completely separate area. So we're divided by a monster
I got you
concrete
now.
river.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, I understand. Yeah, if we're talking over 200-something units and so that, I'm with you on that too. That makes complete sense. This one's just a standalone piece, 18 and a half acres. I think about there's like 6 or 7 unusable acres because of the creek and the floodplain. And so on this space, it's a tight space, and with 92 units, you typically don't see a large-scale amenity like that.
Okay.
More passive amenities like parks, playgrounds, trails, things like that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments? All right, if not, then I will open the floor for a public hearing
Thank you.
for item 21-511. Do we have anyone here who is in favor of this zoning? Okay, do we have anyone here who is in opposition of the zoning? If so, please come up and state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Cindy Welch, 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville. I'm not necessarily opposed to this zoning. I just have a couple questions. And they're showing their property, but I don't know if the city realizes that you own a piece of that property, 0.59 acres, that is adjacent to I-20 and Midway Road at that point. I just looked it up and printed it out today to see what that property looked like, and all of a sudden, it's like, why is there this triangle? And I looked, and it's like, oh, it's owned by the city of Douglasville. But I do hope that he will somehow get those roads together, because anytime you're gonna have this road coming in here and this road coming in a little bit further, it's a mess. And people are gonna be making left-hand turns out of there to cross I-20, get down to Van Sant to get onto I-20. And, you know, you don't need to create a problem in traffic flow. Believe me, I live at a place where there's a problem. And it's a mess trying to make left-hand turns. So that's the only thing I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. Comments? No? Comments? Would you like to have some last comments? No? All right. So if there aren't any other comments or questions by our mayor and council, I would like to close this public hearing. Officially, Madam Mayor, we have no other items.
All right, thank
tonight.
you
We'll
so
take
much,
this up
Madam
on
Vice
Monday.
Chair.
Thank you.
You handled that well. Thank you for the developer and the citizens for commenting. We'll move on then to item number 11, which is Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business this evening.
Thank you so much, Councilman Miller. Public Relations Committee, I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller to take that for Councilman Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Public Relations Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Public Safety, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you so much, Coach. Technology Committee, chaired by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Technology Committee.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Yes, Madam Mayor. One item that we discussed in our committee meeting, and that's item 21-522, adopt the Highway 5 Transportation and Land Use Study and transmit the study to the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Georgia Department of Transportation. Ms. April McDowell.
Yes, April McCown, Project Manager, City of Douglasville, 6701 Church Street. So during your 5 o'clock meeting, you heard the Highway 5 Land Use and Transportation Study from our consultant AECOM and their recommendations, which of course encompassed a lot of land use recommendations as well as some transportation infrastructure projects for consideration. So after the adoption of this plan, if it's to Mayor and Council's liking, we would then staff would then transmit this plan to the Georgia Department of Transportation and the Atlanta Regional Commission for funding and for priority lists on the TIP solicitation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCowan. Do we have any other comments or questions in regards to this item? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, Madam Chair. I was just going to say thank you to Ms. April. We appreciate all the hard work that you and CPS, is that the firm?
It's AECOM. is the firm.
AECOM.
Yeah.
CPS, AECOM, they're all running together. AECOM has done for us with Highway 5. We know that that's an area that's congested, especially at Christmas time. So we're excited for the possibility to get on the tip with Atlanta Regional Commission and Georgia Transportation, Georgia Department of Transportation. And some of the recommendations for the citizens was to expand the bridge, to make 6 lanes, for Highway 5 and Stewart's Mill, to put bicycle trails and pedestrian walking trails, and to help with traffic getting onto I-20. So I know that's a brief synopsis. It's not really entailed. And Mayor Pro Tem, you may want to talk about some other things. I know they did talk about trying to get some of the retail sites built up to bring in more revenue and to make some of those with housing and retail. But Mayor Pro Tem, you can expound upon that more. I know that's your ward, and you've been in constant contact with trying to make this a feasibility study a reality.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is exciting that we're finally getting, basically broadcasting out our needs and wants for our particular, this portion of our ward, but especially to start to engage in some of the development around the mall is very important. Also against with all the other shopping centers, this is the largest retail area, as best of my knowledge, to the west of Atlanta. And it doesn't live up to that title, I think, very well in terms of its appearance. And so this is, and certainly it doesn't function as well as it can. So there's some exciting opportunities. I like the ideas about the introduction of some green space in there, the way we're going to handle setbacks along some of the major streets and roads in that area, but especially also redeveloping Douglas Boulevard from the mall, because the mall needs all the help it can get. And if nothing else, get that stupid left turn light in front of Arbor Station to go to yellow once in a while. Because if anybody who's sat on Highway 5 trying to turn into Arbor Station knows that that light does not turn yellow very often. So that was, I like the fact they included that recommendation in there. It's very small, but it means a lot. So.
Yeah, green space for parks and all of that in the area as well. So it's exciting.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for a job well done. So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to request that this item be placed on the consent agenda.
I don't see any heads saying no, so I think it's a yes.
All right, so consent agenda it is, and that's all we have under transportation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am.
We'll move on to item number 17, which is other business. We want to enter the minutes on this meeting, the results of the Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, City of Douglasville general election for 4 seats on the City Council. Ms. Vicki Acker, our City Clerk.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and
Good
Council. Vicki Acker, City Clerk, 6695 Church Street. Today, I would like to enter into record the certified election results of the Tuesday, November 2nd general election as recorded in the election summary report from the Douglas County Board of Election and Registration. Therefore, I will read the names and number of votes received by each candidate. Ward 1, William Golden, 78. Terry S. Miller, 198. Ward 2, Post 1, Shay Johnson, 259. Nicole N. Miller, 323. Ward 3, Post 1, LaShawn B. Danley, 522. Marvin A. Davis, 181. Ward 3, Post 2, Sam Davis, 461. Charles Lawler, 114. John Rogers, 130. That's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you so much, Ms. Acker. We appreciate you reading the results of the November 2nd election, and we'd like to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller, Councilmember Nicole Miller, and council members Dr. LaShawn Danley and Councilmember Davis. Let's give them a hand, please. The dream team is back, and we appreciate the citizens that put their names in the hat as well to run. We always want people to feel like they are engaged in city government, and we appreciate them running races as well. And it was a nice rotation. It was a clean race. Anything else, Ms. Acker? No, ma'am. Okay. We'll move on then to updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Staff attorney, Ms. Lynn Woodward.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Our police department, Major Davison.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. Congratulations again to all those who are returning. Please make a note that January 6th at 5:30 will be your swearing in to begin your new term in office. The clerk's office will be in touch. That will be the only item on that day as we will move directly into your 6 o'clock legislative meeting. Keep in mind that we do have an offset in those meetings because of the New Year's Day holiday, as well as we have the MLK holiday that month as well. So get your rest over the Christmas and Thanksgiving holiday because we will get busy starting in January. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, City Manager. Let me see if there are other, do we have any other comments from council members before we go to comments from citizens and delegates? I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all of those who served in the military. Happy Veterans Day, City Manager for the Navy. And now we'll go to comments from citizens and delegates. If you please come forward and give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to talk to us and tell us anything you'd like to talk about germane to the City of Douglasville, potential business for the City of Douglasville.
3002 Concord Way, Douglasville.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have 2 comments.
Uh-huh.
One is The light at Freedom Island on the flag has been out since either late August or 1st of September.
Okay.
So
Freedom Island.
it was in September.
The light on Freedom Island and over the flag? Okay.
I come by there quite often at night, and it's like,
That's
Gee.
Mr. Roberts. He'll snap his fingers and a light will be on. Yes, sir. We'll get it together. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Welch.
and then the other thing, and maybe he has already worked on it, at Durley Lane and Highway 92. It used to be when you came up there, coming up Durley, and you're going, I guess, I don't know what direction it is. There was a right turn lane onto Highway 92. The next lane was go straight and turn left. Well, it's been changed just recently, and somebody was just honking at me, and I couldn't figure out what's going on, because I'm sitting on the new arrow and didn't see it because there was a car ahead of me sitting on that arrow. And that's the only way you would know. And it would be nice if there was a sign, you know, a little bit before you get to Walgreens driveway that shows that. I understand they probably can't put it up yet on 92, but people don't know. And I saw a car in that lane that we're used to going straight, and they were going straight, and so was this car in the right lane going straight. And I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be an accident.
Okay.
So,
Well,
and I'm thinking that just happened. I hadn't noticed it until last week.
yes, ma'am. Well,
So-
we'll take that under advisement. We have our meetings, of course, it's still under construction. We'll talk to
Right.
GDOT
But they
and our
do have the arrows
transportation.
different on the roads, and but you can't see them when people are parked on them waiting for the light to change.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll definitely look into it, and Mr. Roberts is very good at following up on things. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. Any other comments from citizens and delegates? Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. We'd love to hear from you. You have 5 minutes.
May it please the mayor council. My name is Will Martinez. I'm a lawyer out of Johns Creek. I represent Kisden Park HOA. They're off of Summerlin Parkway, if you're familiar with the neighborhood, south of 20, west of Lee. And you guys considered a proposal for a final plat back in, was it October 28th? I think it was item 21-486, was submitted by Daniel Fields. And so the members of the HOA of the existing community didn't have an opportunity to speak, and they wanted to kind of have an opportunity to say something about that. I believe you tabled the matter at the time. Just give you kind of a quick, brief history, very abbreviated history of the situation that's going on there. The original developer tried to develop it in 2005. There was a final plat for phase 1 in 2006. That was developed, and you have about 113 homes in that community. Phase 2 was never actually developed for a number of reasons: Great Recession, foreclosures, whatnot. And so what is happening is you have phase 1 developed, and you have a community, you have a HOA, community association, amenities and whatnot. What's happening here is that you have Mr. Fields building a phase 2, but it's not going to be subject to the HOA, which it would be okay, but unfortunately, the way the community is built off of going from Lee to Summerlin is that they're going to be sharing an ingress and egress road. Summerlin Parkway is the only way to get in, only way to get out of that community. As I read the final plat for phase 2, they're going to be adding another 168 homes here. And so you're going to have basically almost 300 homes, but only less than half of those homes are going to be part of an HOA. And so I believe that's going to be cause, and some of the members of the community will speak more directly to it. It's going to cause 3 issues here. One is going to cause issues of stress because you're going to have a community that's kind of fractured in terms of who can and can't use the amenities. And so, or who are responsible for the common elements here. And so only half the people, or less than half the people, will be responsible for it. They'll be bearing the burden for over the other half of the people. The other issue is just confusion, and I think that's already starting here, is that I believe the developer is they're using the same name, unfortunately. So they're saying Kensington Phase 1 to Kensington Phase 2. Your constituents are going to believe this is the same community. I mean, and they have every reason to, without knowing the background of it. And so the folks who are going to be buying into this community are going to believe that they're going to be entitled to utilize the facilities, entitled to utilize the amenities that are on those properties, and they're not going to be able to do so, or not going to be able to do so legally. And three, it's going to cause eventually, I believe, a bit of conflict between that community, between those who are already there, between Phase 1, and between those who are buying into Phase 2. The plat hasn't been approved yet that I know of. And so I think it's a reasonably foreseeable problem that can probably be avoided prior to approving the plat. And once again, it's not my position. I don't think it's the homeowner's position to prohibit or infringe or retard development of the unit. Obviously, it's been 15 years. You want to grow and have more homes, and have more taxpayers, and have a bigger base of people live here. But if you're going to have a community that has only half an HOA, that's going to be a problem here. I believe all of the homeowners who live there have all signed off on a petition, at least wanting to address this issue first, before prior to it being approved here. And I think it's a reasonable concern. We appreciate your consideration here. It's not the biggest issue in the world, but it is an issue that's going to be a problem for several of your constituents. So we hope that you would take it into consideration and find a resolution that's amenable to the parties who live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Martinez. You have any other comments?
Good evening, Madam Mayor
Good
and
evening.
City Council. My name is LaToya Lewis, address 7927 Hawks Nest Trail. I'm calling, I want to speak on behalf of Kensington Park Property Owners Association. However, with the applications that has been submitted, it probably, you all probably know it as Kensington Park Phase 1. But it's a major property owners association, and of course, Kensington Park have been going through a lot over the past 20 years. And for the past 7 years, the 113 homeowners that has been in Kensington Park has basically revamped the entire neighborhood, beautiful neighborhood. They've increased the amenities, added value to it, and we have been completely blindsided by these applications, these agenda items. One is for an easement that was granted, and this final plat. And so during the course of us having a conversation with DC Kensington, we have communicated with DC Kensington through 5 different companies. Integrity Development Group, Kensington Park Phase 2 LLC, which Brent Holdings LLC, DC Kensington, and now Glenn at Kensington Park. So during our correspondence, we have not been able to correspond with anybody. And we've been completely blindsided by these applications for an easement and for the final plat approval for 89 additional lots. Now, the last conversation that we had with DC Kensington was back in 2019 when we discussed the easement to join the other 89 lots. We have not heard from them since 2019. We've been sending several letters, but in the meantime, they've been, filling out applications to get these things approved. Since Kensington Park went through a development foreclosure back in 2007, for the past 14 years, that phase two has been dormant. Nothing has been going on, and all of a sudden, you know, the homeowners are concerned because they're doing all kinds of constructions prior to even getting anything approved by the city council. The last time we had a conversation, again, with DC Kensington, we mentioned to him that the seven-year period for the declarant to unilaterally annex that portion of the subdivision has expired. And thus, the annexation of the property requires written consent of the owner and 2/3 of the homeowners in the present phase one. We haven't heard from anyone. And by us not hearing from anyone, we felt that we were covered by the Unified Development Code, which is 504, Residential Development Standards. And it says that pretty much a subdivision having 51 to 100 dwellings in a separate HOA has to have their own amenities. And it also states that all required amenities shall be completed and available for use prior to the issuance of the final plat approval for phase two. The homeowners are not willing to share their amenities because it's already causing conflict. They're coming into the neighborhood. You know, debris is everywhere. The homes in that neighborhood range from $400,000 to $475,000. The last home sold for $439,000 in May of 2021. Yet there are signs being erected in the common areas on our property that says Glen at Kensington starting at the low 300s. It's a major problem, and we're having a lot of traffic. The homeowners are very upset. They're restless because we take a lot of pride in our assessments and adding value to the amenities that we have because it looks completely different in the past 7 years, and it's all because of the homeowners in that subdivision. So I'm asking the City Council to revisit item 21486 and also item 2433. It's riddled with inconsistencies, and the homeowners at Kensington Park Property Owners Association hadn't had a chance to defend themselves in this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. We have any other comments from citizens?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Cheryl Francis, 7061 Skipping Stone Way.
Could you spell your last name for me?
Francis.
Francis.
Frank with an
Frank.
I, Francis.
Okay, thank you.
And I live in Douglasville, and I also serve the community of Douglasville with their mental health needs. I bring this up to say, first of all, the issue I'm addressing, I guess, is item 21507 with American Homes. I'm invested in the community. And unlike the builders, if you notice, their address was not Douglasville. And so I have a stake here. I find it appalling earlier when Councilwoman Danley had asked for a date, and his issue was, we're changing the management company. I don't know about you, but if I'm leaving a job, until I'm escorted off the property, I gotta do my job. So I find it just appalling that they weren't able to give you a date. But that's okay, I'm not surprised because that's their MO. The reason I'm bringing this up, I want you guys to consider this when you're voting next week. Because American Home has a history of going into neighborhoods, this is public knowledge, building properties, not caring for their properties, not inspecting what they're expecting, all right? And if they are approved next week, then our community, Chicago Park, is gonna be a statistic. Now, I live in Douglasville. I serve the community of Douglasville, and I vote. And so I want you guys to remember that when you vote next week on this issue. We're working as homeowners. Another issue, and I know I got my 5 minutes, I got my points, but I want to bring them out. As homeowners, right, we are in the minority because we're working with the handle and they've got the blade. And last week, I watched the video. I wasn't here, but I watched the video. And the representative said, we will have the HOA. Now, you guys think about it. You have something that you're invested in, and you don't have a say. Because somebody else who's more powerful, who has more money, who is bigger, is having the say over you when you live, you work, your family grow here, and you don't have a say, and they're gonna be approved to build more rental properties. And you all know, I've heard you tonight say what will happen when the majority of rental properties are there. We are working class families. We're not all here because some of them are still at work. Some of us, it's 2 family income. So we pride ourselves in our community. You drive through our community, you'll see that. And we're in the minority. Okay, we don't have an HOA. We'll never be represented on the HOA. All right? But we care about our community. We care about our investment. This is not any other neighborhood across the tracks. And I know there's a stigma. I know there's a stigma about it, but I want to appeal to every one of you when you vote next week. Remember, American Homes, they've got a history. Go look, they've got a Facebook page that says American Home rental tenants. And you know what? It's all complaints. Check the facts. Guys, if you approve them, then some of the issues that we're bringing up, they're civil issues. I don't want you to dismiss them. They have to bear on your decision when you vote next week. These are working class families. We're proud of where we live. We don't have an HOA, and you'll see us cleaning up our own neighborhoods. We don't need anybody to tell us because we pride ourselves in what we invest in. And I want you all to remember the civil issues next week when you're voting, because even though it's not under your jurisdiction, it must have some bearing on your decision. We're across the tracks. We know there's a stigma, but we're a proud people. Don't take that from us by having us bleed because we have the blade. Don't take that from us because they've got the money and we don't. Because they've got the majority of properties and will never have a say over how we're governed. Don't take that from us by giving them that vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Francis. Do we have any other comments from citizens or delegates? If so, you can come forward. You have 5 minutes to address the council. No, I don't see any others. Well, we appreciate all of the comments that were made. We will take everything into consideration with our decisions next week. We hope everyone have a nice Veterans Day and a great weekend, God willing. If we don't have any other business, then this meeting is adjourned.